Taste the biscuit. Taste the goodness of the biscuit. Taste the honey sauce. Taste the goodness of the biscuit with the honey sauce. Don't get your honey sauce on me. I don't like the way it tastes with my chicken wings. Taste the biscuit. Taste the goodness of the biscuit. Taste the honey sauce. Taste the goodness of the biscuit with the honey sauce. Don't get your honey sauce on me. I don't like the way it mixes with my mac and cheese. Anyway, welcome to the Sabby and Jaybe show. My name is James Fauntleroy. I am one of your hosts. Sabby Sabs, my sister from another mister. How you doing today?
What's going on, JB?
Just had to get some levity in here. Just try to, get some humor in here. Apologize for being a little bit tardy. Rough day. But anyway, the Sabby and Jaybe show is every single Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So good to see all of you here joining with us today. If you guys have not already, you guys can actually go to our Substack at revolutionaryblackout.substack.com. This gives you guys email notifications whenever we go live or upload any clips. If you guys would like to, you guys can also go to our Patreon. Thank you so much to the patrons on Patreon, and we'll be getting to that later in the show today to give them a shout out and thank you. So thank you so very much. If you guys have not already, if you guys would like to give some email inquiries or maybe any type of show ideas, you guys can go to info@redblacknetwork.com. And if you also would like to, you guys can go to our website at revolutionaryblackoutnetwork.com. Also, just to let you guys know, we're also doing a fundraiser for our graphics designer. You guys can go to at Venmo at Revolutionary Blackout or Cash App $mutual aid forever. That is for Erin. We're also trying to raise money for her so that because she's recently a widow, so we're trying to help her out as well. If you guys would like to, you guys can also do that as well. So thank you so very much for that. I'm going to make this really quick because we have a lot to get into. Just going to say hello to a few people. We have B the Below says, Christ, yes. Be the Below. This we're gonna get into it. We have CBC voters saying happy Thursday at Sabby and JB. There you go. All right. We have Comrade in the house. Nick coming in and saying, let's effing go. Okay, I'm not gonna cuss this entire stream. I am going to be as good as I possibly can. That's gonna be tough. Oh, it's gonna be tough. All right. Oh, by the way, guys, make sure to take the poll. Okay, we'll get to the poll in a little bit. Stacy Mean says Eddie Murphy, Larry Wilmore, and Steve Tompkins ought to have at least served as cease and desist order to Netflix for this ish. Their 1999 animated sitcom, The PJs, was way better than this ish. Oh my God. I remember that. Do you remember that?
I do remember the PJs. I like the PJs.
Oh my gosh. Okay, Bryce Smith says, my kid said it sucks. I trust that it does. That's the reason why I haven't sat down and watched it. Well, we're going to get into that. Silva says, Sabby love and JB peace. Good to see you. It's Casey coming in. Good to see you. All right. We have not just Iowan. Good to see you. Good to see you. Says, what's up, everyone? Dana Fairbanks, always with the receipts coming in. Good to see you, Dana. We have Jacqueline coming in saying, hey, everybody. Good to see you in here as well. I'm going to do two more. All right. Anna coming in saying hello. Good to see you, Anna. And then we have Retro Gamer coming in saying hello. Good to see all of you here today. Nice to have you. We're going to get into what we need to talk about today. This is going to be an interesting one. As you guys saw from the thumbnail, it says disrespectful or misunderstood. We're talking about the Good Times reboot that Netflix has put in. And I said, Netflix needs to stop playing. Real talk. Because a lot of black people are mad. Especially this guy. He says, where's my money? We're going to get into that too, because that's very important. So, Sabs. Good Times. Was that a show that you watched a lot growing up as a kid?
Yeah, and like obviously I wasn't alive when Good Times aired, but I watched all of the reruns, right? So like I watched the reruns with my parents, and I think it's probably one of the best sitcoms that was made. And what people have to understand, like this show was so iconic. Like one of the reasons why it was iconic is because this was like the first time you actually saw on national television a Black family living in poverty and dealing with capitalism. This was the first time you saw that. Yeah. And it was funny, though, right? But one of the things that we saw throughout Good Times is that every time something good happened to them, it was taken away. Every time. And so, but that's real in poverty. Like when you're poor, when you're growing up, and they were growing up in, I assume that was the South Side Chicago. They lived in the projects in Chicago. When you're growing up that way, when you're living in poverty, that is the reality. A lot of times, like good things may come your way, but then something else happens and cancels that out. So with the show Good Times, you had, a family. James Evans was the father. The mother was Florida Evans. And they had 3 kids, Thelma, JJ, and Michael. Of course, I think JJ was probably the most popular character on the show, right? Because he used to say Dynamite, like that kind of thing, right? Mm-hmm. So it was a really iconic show. So when I found out that they were making a Good Times cartoon, I was actually kind of excited. And I was like, oh, cool. We're going to see like JJ and Thelma and James and but no, that's not what this cartoon became. It still has the same apartment complex, the project that they grew up in, but it's a completely different family. The family is supposed to be the father that's in the cartoon. He is the grandson of James Evans from the show, right? So I was already disappointed when I realized it wasn't actually going to be the original Good Times cast. So I didn't understand that. And then 2, the way the characters are portrayed in the cartoon, it's honestly offensive to the original show. I watched the first episode, so you will hear, throughout the first episode, a little bit of the music from the original Good Times sitcom. But it's just not the same. And it's honestly disrespectful to the original cast. I can get into more detail later.
Yeah, I'm just going to show just the what you guys saw. It's a little bit blocked on the thumbnail, but I just want to share this. This is actually from one of the op-eds that were written about it, probably of one of many. But this is actually the family for the Good Times reboot. And it's egregious to say the least as how things are portrayed. Just to give you guys and as far as me growing up, I didn't really sit down and watch Good Times growing up, primarily because we just didn't as a family. Like for us, growing up, it was more, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. We did do Jeffersons a little bit. It was, for me, a lot of it was like the Cosby Show and A Different World, stuff like that. So that's where I kind of came up. So I didn't watch Good Times that much, but I definitely do know the show. And I also wanted to know if Janet Jackson ever got to give her opinions about this too. I'm actually curious about that.
That's another thing for people who haven't seen the show. Janet Jackson, during that time she was a kid, she was on that show. Not the entire, the entire show experience, but her character was a recurring character on the show. Actually, for a while, she played the character Penny, right? So, and that character, what her character was going through was a serious issue because she was being physically abused by her mother. And so Malona, who's another recurring character on the show, I guess you would call her supporting cast. She's not main cast. She decided to end up adopting Penny. So there were real issues that were discussed on the show that at that point in time, you just did not see on national television. And that's another reason why this show was so iconic. I would say the theme song for Good Times was iconic. Like till this day, people still know the theme song. It's like Roger Meadows had to correct me on one part that I've been singing wrong apparently for years. Hanging in a child line. Roger Meadows pointed out to me that a lot of people say that, but it's actually hanging in a jiving. And I tried and I was like, hanging in a jiving. I don't like it. I like hanging in a child line. I like the child line. So, but anyway, the theme song was iconic, and I watched the first episode, and I honestly it's shameful. It's embarrassing. The baby, if you could put the picture back up, Jaybe, the baby that's in the picture, who's also a member of the family, the baby is selling drugs. There literally is. They have the baby in a stroller selling drugs.
Yeah.
This has nothing to do. Good Times had nothing. It wasn't about that. The characters were not about that. The father in the very first episode, when you start the episode, the father is in the shower singing to a cockroach. Like it's humiliating and it's embarrassing. And I want to add for people who may not know about this, John Amos, who played James Evans, you want to know the reason why he left the show Good Times is because he was tired of the stereotypical content. That's why he left the show. He was tired of the fact that they could never get out of poverty. He was like, where are we supposed to go as characters? Are we always going to remain in poverty? But the creator of the show at that point in time said, well, this is the reality that most people who are living in poverty do not break that cycle and do not get out of poverty. So that's why the character James Evans was killed off the show, because John Amos said he got tired of that. So now you have this cartoon. The cartoon's called Good Times. They are playing the theme song, a little bit, the music in the episodes, and even more, playing into stereotypes. It's like they did not hear anything that John Amos said. And it's really upsetting.
Yeah. So I'm going to share this because I have a video I want to share with you really quick. But one of the things I want to show first is the cast. Okay. So here is the cast, because I want everybody to know what is what. So hang on, let me enlarge this. Sorry, it's a little bit too small. Okay. So, so you have the series directors. Here's the writers, right? Series cast: Jay Farrow, Marsai Martin, Gerald Slink Johnson, liberal Yvette Nicole Brown, Jaybe Smooth. You remember Cree Summer?
Cree Summer from A Different World.
Yep, she played Freddie Brooks from A Different World. Rashida Oleyola. I probably butchered her last name. I'm sorry. Devon Shepard. I am disappointed in Godfrey. I am very disappointed in Godfrey for this one, because Godfrey knows better.
Yep.
And he's from Chicago. He knows better. And so for Godfrey to be on this cast and knowing what this is, and he signed on to do this. Little Rel Howery, Heidi Gardner, Affion Crockett. Really, Affion? Are you serious right now? Tisha Campbell's in this too.
Tisha Campbell.
She
Michael
should know
McDonald.
better.
Like all these people, they know better.
Yeah.
Like, come on, man.
Are you kidding me right now?
Yep.
Phil Lamar? What?
Even Bernadette Stannis, that's the woman that played Thelma.
Yeah.
Now, she's only in apparently 2 episodes, but we have something about her story too, because she actually explained how she felt like they were tricked. Yeah. So, yeah.
Oh, and by the way, I wanted to show the executive producers. I'm sorry. I closed it off too quick. Here's the executive producers. because everybody's also focused on this. Steph Curry is one of the executive producers. All right.
Mm-hmm.
The original producer for.
I think you're freezing, Jaybe. I think you.
Now, for those of you who do not know, I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah. But you'll have to say that again. So
okay.
Steph Curry.
Steph Curry, Norman Lear, who was the original producer of the original Good Times, and then you have Seth MacFarlane. If you guys don't know who that is, he's the creator of Family Guy.
And can
Family
I just
Guy add? Cleveland Show.
Yeah, and I just want to add for people who are not familiar with Steph Curry. Steph Curry is a professional basketball player. So you have Steph Curry, professional basketball player, and Norman Lear, who is the original creator, who should know better, and Seth MacFarlane. And when I saw that Seth MacFarlane was a part of this, that explained a lot, because the talking baby that's selling drugs. First of all, can we stop it with the talking baby thing? The talking baby thing has been overdone. This is not Family Guy. And so for Seth MacFarlane to try to bring in that same method that he used in Family Guy, and then you have the baby selling drugs. Come on. Why was Seth MacFarlane even a part of this? So there's that. You don't need him to be a part of this.
No, you don't.
Where were the original cast members? The ones who were still alive. They should have had 100% hands-on with this project. And from what I heard from Bernadette Stantis, because she talked about this on TMZ, this is not the impression that she was given when they said they were going to do a Good Times cartoon. And apparently they did not involve the original cast the way that they should have. And we've said this before about biopics on Lifetime. All these biopics that people have issue with, it's because the family members or the original person that the biopic is about was not involved in the project. So Bernadette was really vocal about it on TMZ. We can't play it on here because TMZ has copyright, but we do have the article where she issued the statement about what apparently happened with this project.
So here it goes. It says the stars of the original Good Times are weighing in after the trailer for Netflix's forthcoming animated reboot led some fans to question whether the new project will be a dynamite. Celebrating its 50th anniversary this year after premiering in February 1974, Good Times focused on the Chicago-based Evans family, with the Norman Lear-produced series running for 6 seasons and earning praise for its realistic portrayal of a working-class Black family. After the first promo debuted last week for Netflix's animated exploration of the Evans family current generation, plenty of social media users expressed surprise that the new series, which appears to double down on stereotypes with such elements as drug-dealing infant, didn't highlight the positive themes from the initial show. So I'm going to get to what she said. She said, I really can't form an opinion as I've not seen any of the episodes yet. That's what John Amos says. He goes on to explain that the high quality of the 1970 series makes it challenging for newer projects that aspire to be compared to it. He said Norman and the entire cast and company set the bar pretty high. They'll have a hard time reaching that level of entertainment and education. I wish them the best. I see people aspiring to that, but I don't see anybody reaching that goal, especially in an animated version. Let me see. And then she says probably a lot of people don't know how Hollywood works. A lot of times you use a certain name to open up the door for a new show. That could be what it is. But I'm sure a lot of people would be a little confused at first because they have to think that it's us. They think, oh my God, that's got to be Thelma, JJ, and Michael. And then you come in there and you don't see anything like that. Now, it says Stannis explains that the Netflix series team previously reached out to her reps to have her voice a small part on the show, which she did. She said that Walker also voices a minor character. She said, I did a little voice for them, but I did not know it was going to be the way it is. I thought it was going to be different. She says, as for the roles voiced by herself and Walker, she continues, it's just a little here and there. But I think that what they did that because they knew what their show was going to be like. So I guess they figured if you put us in there, it wouldn't look so bad or whatever.
And I met her. I met her when I was in undergrad. She's very, very talented. I don't know if everyone knows, but Bernadette was also a dancer. She wasn't just an actress. So when I used to work at the theater, that's how I met her, because I did production backstage, and she was in one of the plays that were featured at my school. So she continued working. Like, she didn't just do Good Times and that's it. She continued working in the film. But anyway, the thing is this. This is an embarrassment to the original Good Time show. Like, I barely got through the first episode. It was that bad, Jaybe. And the daughter in the cartoon, the first episode, she's apparently on a hunger strike for social justice. So they have flies like flying around her head and stuff. It's just so disrespectful. And, I thought it was very misleading to make people think that this was going to be Good Times, the actual show, when it was not. These are totally different characters. And then the characters that you have, it's like a minstrel. That's how it came across to me. It's like a minstrel. It's like they try to represent Black people in the worst way possible. That's what it felt like to me, Jaybe. That's why I barely got through the first episode, but I couldn't watch after that.
Full disclosure, I only saw the preview because I dumped my Netflix subscription because it got too expensive, and I'm not giving them more money to Netflix. So I haven't had a Netflix subscription for months, and that's one of the reasons. And now I'm glad I don't have it anymore, because this is a BS. It's horrible. Let me share this right now, because quite a few people weighed in. And I also have a comedy hype news segment to show as well. But let's go here.
Ooh. This is the Netflix reboot of the show Good Times. I think we need to boycott this one. My name is Brother Legend, and I'm here to raise your consciousness. This show is already problematic for so many reasons. I'm just going to give you 3 and keep it pushing. The first one is, how you going to have a show talking about Black people and the Black struggle and Black families, and it's produced by 2 members of the Cauliflower Coalition? I've never seen Steph Curry's name in the credits before, but I feel like he's just there as a token. But this is something Seth MacFarlane is known to do. For those who don't know, Seth MacFarlane is the creator of Family Guy and The Cleveland Show. You can't find me one show about a white family with all Black producers. But somehow, this guy has gotten away with 4 seasons of making fun of Black stereotypes and Black trauma. Not to mention, this is the voice actor of the father in the show, which is literally blackface. Aside from the stereotypes of obesity and promiscuous, curvy women, the second reason it's problematic is because in the Good Times reboot, Seth MacFarlane once again adultifies a young Black boy. The adultification of young Black boys is the reason why they get longer sentences and more incarcerated. It's the reason they have a harder...
Hold up. He's right. Go ahead, Sabs.
Yeah, I was just going to add that when I saw Seth MacFarlane's name as a part of this project, I was like, whose idea was it to do this or to add Seth MacFarlane? Because for people who don't know, when he mentioned the Cleveland Show, remember the Cleveland Show was canceled. It wasn't getting as many views as Family Guy, right? And I felt like personally that Seth MacFarlane did not put as much energy into the Cleveland Show as he did with Family Guy. And there were a lot of like Black stereotypes in the Cleveland Show. Like it, but the Good Time Show cartoon takes it to the extreme. It takes it to that next level. That's what I'm saying. Like it's 10 times worse than what you saw on the Cleveland Show. So why would you add someone to this project? Or maybe it was his idea to do this project. Why would you want to collaborate with someone who is not successful in producing this type of genre with a Black family? So that's another question that we need to ask. Just because he was successful with Family Guy doesn't mean he's going to be successful with every animated project.
And while we're at it, let me also add this here. Just because you're a liberal doesn't mean that you don't do racist things. Because Seth MacFarlane is a liberal.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Now, another thing I also wanted to add, and to the point of this gentleman, is that what happened to Tamir Rice? Tamir Rice was described as a man, even though he was only 12 years old when he was shot and killed by police. We were constantly aged up as boys. So if you have a 9, 10-year-old black boy, they're going to be described as a grown man, even though they're small, they're tiny, and they're immature. They're boys. And that's what happens. And this is perpetuated even by shows like this.
Yep.
Harder time in school and are more likely to be disciplined. But to Seth MacFarlane, this is funny somehow, because in Good Times, he's decided to include a drug-dealing baby in the show. And I can go into this a lot further, but I'm going to keep it pushing. Like I said, the last reason this is problematic is because it's literally the reason John Amos, the dad from the original Good Times, left the show. After 3 long seasons, John Amos left the show because he didn't like the direction of the character JJ. You know, the one whose catchphrase was Dynamite. He felt the show was focusing too much on JJ's comedic antics at the expense of other important serious storylines. Additionally, Amos had concerns about the lack of diversity in the writing team and how the scripts portrayed African-American characters. He believed that the white writers' perceptions of black family and black fatherhood did not align with his own experiences, and basically it wasn't reflective of reality. And so here we are once again with the Good Times reboot with characters that aren't reflective of black reality, written by and executive produced by non-black people. If you want part 2, I can get into it. Let me know.
That's something I want to add to. A lot of these shows that you guys see where it's like an all black cast, a lot of times I think people assume that it's produced by black people. That's not necessarily the case. I think one of those exceptions with us growing up was Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, right? Because the guy who did create the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was black. That was actually supposed to be his story, where he moved out to, they sent him out to live in Bel-Air and stuff like that. But that's normally not the case. And when you see someone like Seth MacFarlane as a part of this project, you have to ask yourself, when you see the way that he portrays black people, not just in the Cleveland show, but also this show, it makes you ask the question, like, what is his experience with black people, like growing up, et cetera? Seth MacFarlane, if I remember correctly, was at RISD. I believe he's originally from Rhode Island. I have to double check that. But those of us that live in New England know Rhode Island doesn't typically have a significant amount of African Americans that live in Rhode Island, and even fewer back when Seth MacFarlane was growing up, because he's older than us, Jaybe. So you have to ask these questions. You have to pay attention to these things. It was just so disrespectful to me. The lowest of the low was to have a baby. The baby is a drug dealer. You couldn't give that baby, let's say you do go with the talking baby, you couldn't give that baby any other role except the baby is a drug dealer. Stewie wasn't a drug dealer.
No.
So why would you? Oh, because it's a black baby, you make him a drug dealer.
Child.
It's a mess. This is absolutely a mess. That was ridiculous. And for Steph, and this is my thing, Steph Curry, you sitting there. Why would you go along with that?
Also, let me ask you this, Sabs. Steph Curry's father was in the NBA, right?
Yes.
So Steph Curry grew up privileged.
Yes.
So what does he know about living in the hood growing up?
That's a good point. But he's still black, JB. He still had to look at this and say, okay, this is probably not a good idea. I mean, who was at the table? You got Steph Curry, you got Seth MacFarlane. Someone mentioned in the comments that Lear's name was added to it, but apparently he wasn't as much involved. But I mean, it's just
he was about to kick rocks from life.
Who thought that this was fun? It's not funny. And not even that, like, let's pretend the baby's not a drug dealer. The comedic aspect in the show, it's just not funny. I did not laugh once. The jokes are not jokey.
You got Afion Crockett, Jay Farrow, and Godfrey, 3 comedians that could drive the show. And by the way, wait, let me go back to this, because were they even writers? Because I don't remember seeing them in the writers list.
I think
Because
Steph Curry was. I think he was a part of another project, but I think it was a sports related project before. He's been a part of other projects.
Nope, not one of the people who are comedians in the list that I see are actually the writers. They're not writing anything.
No, it's not even funny though. Like seriously, for those of you who haven't seen it, try to at least watch the first episode. It's not funny. Like it's not laughable. Like it just, Good Times was funny. And it just, you can't just throw projects together just for the sake of throwing projects together. Quality means more than quantity. So sometimes that means you may have to sit this project out. I think it was a complete mistake not to have the characters actually be the original Good Times characters. It's misleading when you tell people there's a Good Times cartoon animated series that is in the works, and then people see that it's basically all these other characters, and they're basically using the Good Times name to draw people in. Then you see the script is whack and it's not even funny.
While we have John Amos on our minds, they basically McDowell's Good Time. Let's be real. They McDowell's it.
McDowell's from Coming to America.
And John Amos was in there in that movie because he was the owner of McDowell's. So here's my thing. In fact, while we're at it about talking about theft and stealing, Norman Lear is a thief. Norman Lear is a thief because Good Times was not his idea originally. Let's talk about it. Can we talk? Because if we're going to talk about things, let's talk. We can go back to Living Single was actually the blueprint for Friends. That was stolen. Good Times was actually a black man's idea. Let's get into it because I saw this. Hang on.
I knew you were going to mention this.
Yep. You know me. All right, so let's get into this because this is egregious. Norman Lear died already. I think he died at like 100 years old.
Yeah.
Yes, he was that old. Norman Lear has been old. Norman Lear has been around since the Lincoln days. Anyways, let's get into this.
Dave Chappelle once said, taking a man's livelihood is akin to killing him. If you strip away a person's ability to earn a living, eventually they will fall. In 1977, television writer Eric Monty filed a lawsuit that accused networks ABC, CBS, as well as producers Norman Lear, Bud Yorkin, and others of stealing his ideas for the sitcoms Good Times, The Jeffersons, and What's Happening. When Monty was hired as a writer for All in the Family, he created the character of George Jefferson, which of course would famously lead to its own spin-off series, The Jeffersons. That sitcom ran for 11 seasons and aired over 250 episodes, and Monty didn't receive any compensation for creating the iconic character.
Now, hang on. If anybody remember, I remember The Jeffersons way more than I remember All in the Family.
Yep.
Who here? Wait, everybody in the comments. Put a 1 if you remember All in the Family more, or put 2 if you remember The Jeffersons more. I remember The Jeffersons more. So put a 1 in the comment for All in the Family, put a 2 in the comments for The Jeffersons. I remember The Jeffersons, but need I say, let's continue.
That will make a mark in TV history. According to Monty, it was his idea for Red Fox to be the cast as the lead in Sanford and Son. Norman Lear had never heard of the nightclub comedian. It was clear that Monty's work on Norman Lear productions went far past writing a few episodes. His influence on some of the most popular sitcoms of the 1970s cannot be ignored. Good Times was co-created by Eric Monty and Mike Evans, but because the two men aren't listed as producers on the project they created, which is now the norm, they've been shut out from receiving residuals. as the families of Norman Lears and Bud Yorkin continue to profit. This continues today as Netflix prepares to release an animated reboot of Good Times, which once again, the Lear estate will have involvement, but not the men who created the original stories and characters.
I wrote them.
Sabs, can you give me your thoughts on this?
I'm not surprised. It also reminds me of the music industry where Black artists actually had created songs first, but they weren't played on mainstream radio. Back in the day, they were only played on Black radio stations. And so white artists would actually steal those songs. Elvis Presley wasn't the only one. So it kind of reminds me of that. They even took, I have to add this part, the iconic damn that Florida Evans does after James dies. They put that in the first episode and it didn't even fit the scene that was being discussed. They just threw it in there just for the hell of it. So the father goes, damn. I'm like, no. Like, it's not the damn. That's not the right damn. Like, that actually meant something in the actual show because that was after James died. So they just threw it in just for the heck of it.
Wow. Let's hear from the original creator.
I wrote them. Where my money? Cooley had what's happening? Look, want my money out the first one. Where's my money?
From the start, Monty had problems getting Good Times on the air. Some of those problems stemmed from Norman Lear himself, which caused
the little girl all the way on the right is Janet Jackson.
Yep.
Just let everybody know.
delays in production. One of those was Monty fighting for the Evans family to have an active father in the series. According to his daughter, Cynthia, Monty was told by Lear and other producers that the world isn't ready to see a black father on television. During the early days, Monty insisted on the presence of a male figure in the Evans home. It wasn't until Esther Rolle, who played Florida Evans, joined Monty on his stance, which led to John Amos being cast as James Evans, the father of the family. After years of multiple strokes, Mr. Monty at 80 currently suffers from speech impediment, but with the help of his family was able to tell his story.
I always heard him tell this story. He was a little boy outside playing the Long Ranger with a little stick. And this white guy walks by and he said, "Who are you?" He said, "I'm the Long Ranger." And the white guy said, "You can't be the Long Ranger." The Long Ranger, he was like, "Why? The Long Ranger is white." And he was like, So he went back and looked at TV and he noticed all his heroes did not look like him. And at that moment, a writer was born. He decided there and then, I'm going to create heroes to look like me. I want to see people that look like me on TV. And from there, Eric Monte, the writer and creator, was born.
I would for the first time meet Mr. Monty, joined by his daughter Cynthia and granddaughter Jasmine in Atlanta, as they would explain their battle to honor his legacy, Norman Lear stealing the idea for Good Times, and Mr. Monty himself for the first time broke his silence on the passing of the man who infamously robbed him and his family.
Let me chime in here for just a second, because I want to point out something that Katie said in the chat, which I think is important. Katie said, what the F does that even mean? The world is not ready to see a black father in the home. Yeah. So basically, Norman Lear wanted Florida Evans to be a single mom. So Norman Lear thought the world would be ready to see that, but the world wouldn't be ready to see a black father in the home. You guys remember a little show called Murphy Brown, which was released years later? Remember Dan Quayle was calling for the cancellation of Murphy Brown because later on in the show, Murphy Brown had a baby and Murphy Brown was a single mother. Okay, that's decades later. So basically, what Norman Lear was trying to say is that because it was a black woman, that the world would be accepting of her being a single mom. Because how do you get to Murphy Brown decades later and she is a single mom? But of course, Candice Bergen, who played Murphy Brown, was white. That was like a complete meltdown in this country. Like literally Dan Quayle, who was vice president at the time, wanted the show to be canceled because she was a single mom. But you notice how it was okay for that idea to happen if the single mother was a Black woman.
Wow. Thanks for that.
So is it true, Mr. Eric Monty, that he stole your idea as far as a good
Oh
time?
yeah.
Monty revealed that lawyers would end up taking all of his money, which would leave him no choice but to accept a $1 million settlement, and that would end up being his final cut for the entire library of Good Times. We would confirm behind the scenes and on camera that Mr. Monty would even become homeless years later. When asked how much they think the series is worth, the family had this to say.
I think that my father is worth millions. Norman Lear took the credit for all of his works and was deemed that he produced, and he's the godfather.
And he would get credited and kind of like get more work.
And right now he sits on generational wealth, and he was able to continue to make other things. And my father, when he sued, he was blacklisted, and it was metaphorically cutting off his manhood, cutting off his ability to continue to create.
Upon his passing, it is reported that Lear's net worth was roughly over $210 million, close to $225 million to be exact. Both Cynthia and Jasmine would say that the family is full of writers, and blackballing Monty not only prevents him from receiving the benefits of his hard work, it also prevents the family from doing so too. If Monty wasn't blacklisted from the industry, he could have gone on to create even more projects for production companies. It's clear that Monty wasn't out of ideas. After Good Times premiered, Monty would go on to create What's Happening for ABC. Cynthia feels that Monty's removal from Hollywood robbed her family of generational wealth.
So that's a very important part there, that, yeah, he was robbed of that generational wealth. You know, I don't think people fully understand, without Good Times, you don't get Rock. Do you remember the show Rock, Jaybe?
Yeah. You don't get Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. You don't get the Cosby Show. You don't get that. You don't get Blackish.
You don't get Living Single. You don't get, I mean, a lot of the shows that we grew up watching, you just don't, because like they really did break, barriers with that show. And there were serious subjects in the show. Remember when JJ got shot? I remember when Thelma, because I've seen a lot of these shows. I remember when Thelma was asked to join this type of society or secret society or whatever, and it was revealed that basically the girls wanted her so she could be the token Black person of the group. See, a lot of these things that are just now that are being discussed today as controversial or woke-ish or whatever, Good Times had already touched on those issues back then. Yeah. And brought them, to light. I remember when they had the episode where one of the neighbors was eating cat food. I remember that, where like she didn't have enough money to buy real food. Like it, and it was a sitcom. So they still, obviously there were moments that would make you laugh, but they did touch on serious issues.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Katie says, can't forget Black Jesus.
You forget Black Jesus. That was funny. That was a funny one. Yeah. Everything is happening to us because of Black Jesus. And Florida was like, now stop it now. Take it down. The artist, the artwork in Good Times. Remember the paintings that they said was JJ paintings, but we knew, JJ didn't paint those. But like those paintings were very popular and probably worth a lot of money today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so let me share this. This is from a New York Times article. Talks about how Norman Lear shaped American sitcoms. Hang on. I had it. Okay, here it goes. It says 2 Black writers, Eric Monty and Mike Evans are credited with creating Good Times, but have struggled to receive recognition for their contributions. Monty also argued that Lear stole his idea for The Jeffersons. He received a $1 million settlement and said that he was eventually blacklisted from Hollywood. He said everything they wrote was stereotypic, Monty told the Philadelphia Inquirer back in 2006. But many who worked with Lear credited him with changing their lives. I had a very interesting life being on Good Times, said Bernadette Stannis, who played Thelma Evans. My whole life as an adult has been attached to Good Times. Other actors who worked on Lear's shows recalled to him extending an open ear to their ideas and thoughts. Marla Gibbs once asked Lear why he seldom showed up on set of The Jeffersons. Gibbs recalled Lear saying that the cast and show were just doing fine without him.
Now, I want to add, without the Jeffersons, you definitely don't get Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, because remember, the whole theme of the Jeffersons was they were moving on up.
Mm-hmm.
They left, poverty, and they moved on up to the Upper East Side.
Mm-hmm. Fish don't fry in the kitchen and beans don't burn on the grill.
Yep.
Sorry, don't get me started singing the song. Nope, I'm not going to sing the song.
and the wife from the Jeffersons, that's Lenny Kravitz's mother.
The wife? No, you mean the neighbor's wife.
Yeah, the neighbor's wife. She became that's Lenny Kravitz's mother. Yeah. And Marla Gibbs, remember, she was on the Jeffersons, but then she went on to play on 227.
Yeah.
So Good Times, Good Times paved the way for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And so it was a lot that they did. It was prolific. And the fact that, and let's be real, what happened to this gentleman, the gentleman who actually created Good Times? What happened to him is what happened to a lot of our ancestors, those of us who are American descendants of slaves. That's what happened to us.
Yeah.
And so if you feel some type of way about his idea being stolen and his work being stolen, then looks like you agree with reparations.
Yeah, you can look at it as unpaid labor.
It is unpaid labor. That's something that a lot of people don't think about. The thing is like, why do a lot of black? I think was it like a year ago, 2 years ago? I think we talked about this, about how this is back in the earlier days of TikTok, how a lot of black creators on TikTok were upset because a lot of the dances and things like that were actually being stolen, and they were getting more popular with white TikTokers than they were with black TikTokers, even though the black TikTokers actually created it.
Yep.
The anger isn't just because, it's our idea. It's that their labor went into it, and then the accolades and then the financial success did not go to the original creators. This is why a lot of us are mad about how people like Big Mama Thornton, Little Richard, and
especially Little Richard.
Yeah, Little Richard and oh my God, I cannot believe I'm blanking on his name. He wrote Johnny Be Good. Anyways, but the creators of rock and roll were never truly credited with it. Instead, Elvis Presley got all the accolades.
Yep.
So when we're talking about this, we're talking about this also from a class aspect. And I think that's also very important to talk about. And I'm going to be honest with you, there's so much more that I could have added to this, because there's more video, there's more commentary on this. But it is, in my opinion, it is an insult, to the original show. And it shouldn't have happened.
You can't, to make the baby a drug dealer. It's so insulting. No. It's so insulting. And to have the father standing there singing to a cockroach, what the hell?
Yeah.
That never happened in the show Good Times.
Mm-mm.
Why would you, it's not funny. And you know, they wouldn't disrespect. I bet you they wouldn't disrespect All in the Family that way. If someone were to make an animated version of All in the Family, would they disrespect them the same way?
Mm-hmm.
So these are the kind of things that we really got to think about. But yeah, I was really disappointed. Like when I saw that, I was like, are you kidding me? I saw the trailer first, just like you did. And then I actually watched the first episode on Netflix, and I was absolutely disgusted. I said, this is terrible. And you guys, all you got to do is Google it. Just Google Good Times animated series, and you will see all the outrage for yourself. People are not happy.
And don't go on TikTok, because you will be flooded with all black people saying, do not watch it, boycott it. It is terrible. You know, like Charles Barkley would say, it's terrible. It's terrible.
And maybe like Hollywood needs to take a step away from remakes. You come up with something else original. I don't know, but they're just not doing it.
They don't want to step away from remakes because that means that they actually have to take risks. And if they have to take risks, that means they might actually stumble upon a really great story. But they don't want to take that risk. They want a surefire way to get our money, which means giving us just reheats of leftovers. You know? It's like, how many times can we eat leftovers? You know, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, Katie said Michael Evans was a whole revolutionary and they turned him into a drug dealer, SMH. Yeah, because like Michael was like the revolutionary, you know, sibling. He was in the original Good Times. He was about that. He was very, you know, knowledgeable about Black history and about revolution. Like, and he talked about that on almost every episode, actually. So it's just, I don't know. Like I really feel some kind of way. Like after just watching that one episode, I said, let me at least watch the first episode before I, you know, critique it. But
Tiberius Monk, thank you so much for the super chat. Says Sabby and Jaybe excited for the stream. Netflix cancels shows, raises prices, and the result of that is this Good Times reboot. Insane this is. Absolutely. Did you guys make sure to like the stream as well? I'm looking for it. I'm going to be going to the chat right now. Oh yeah, thank you so much, Hempcar on Rockfin. He said Chuck Berry. That's what I blanked on his name. But yeah, Chuck Berry, one of the originators of rock and roll. Like they don't talk about Chuck Berry, Little Richard, and Big Mama Thornton, but you know, it's crazy. And so with that, let me see. Roger Meadow says dog food, not cat food. Okay.
Yeah, sorry, dog food.
Yeah. Chuck Berry, Esther Roll demanded that she be paired with a strong Black male role model in the home.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah. So it's crazy. Ty G says, dude, the drug dealer baby was a good Dave Chappelle joke. Wait, what?
I don't know what that's about, but that has nothing to do with Good Times. So like that should not have been a part of the show. Like just period. And I think was really I think disheartening was to see that when things finally did change in the original show for James, he got that job in Alaska, right? That was actually the actor's exit from the show. That's how he left the show. So then he died working in one of the, I guess, the oil rigs in Alaska. The character did on the show. So that's how the actor left the show. But it was what I noticed was like after James died, then all of a sudden the show's creators allowed those characters to progress. Right. So then eventually, no, I'm serious. Then eventually JJ, you know, moved on and became successful. Thelma moved on and became successful. Same thing with Michael. Like once James Evans, the character, died on the show, then all of a sudden the creators decided, well, let's get them out of poverty.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I did not know that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Those seasons, the seasons without James, those seasons weren't as popular as the ones with him. But once they started to grow up and they graduated from high school and all that kind of stuff, like those seasons, not as many people watched the seasons without James. So
Gotcha. Well, so we got your opinion on that. Sabs, what you got coming up on your show later this evening?
Yep. So I'm just covering 4 news stories tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern. Tomorrow, I'm going live at 2 p.m. Eastern instead of in the evening because Scott Ritter's coming back on. We have a lot to talk about with Israel, Iran, and Ukraine, all this money that just went to Ukraine. So.
Okay. All right, Sabs. Well, it is 7 p.m. and I'm going to get to do a couple of house cleaning things before we head on out. But take care, Sabs. Have a great night.
Bye.
All right. Bye-bye. All right, folks. So I just wanted to do a couple house cleaning things before we go. I want to, first of all, thank you guys for tuning in. I also want to share a big shout out to all of our patrons on Patreon. For without you guys, we would not be able to do this work. You guys make this possible. One of the things that we're trying to do, especially with this channel, is really just do the work of not just talking the talk, but also walking the walk for our community. So you guys allow us to be able to do this type of work here on this channel. There is a lot to be done, and we're trying to also encourage people to do more on the ground themselves, not just, live through us vicariously, but also to do the work yourself, because as we all say, we save us. As you guys may notice right now, there's a lot going on in the colleges that are, a lot of college students and faculty members are also getting out into the streets and doing a lot of work on the ground to protest what's going on in Gaza. Without them, a lot of people probably wouldn't know about what's going on, and a lot more people are actually, becoming more aware. So thank you so very much for that. And then we also encourage a lot of mutual aid going on the ground. So if you guys would like to, you guys can go to patreon.com/revolutionary blackout if you guys would like to support the channel as well. So thank you so very much to all of you. Also, we are raising money for our graphics designers. So if you guys would like to, you guys can go to Venmo at Revolutionary Blackout or Cash App $ mutual aid forever. Thank you so very much for all of your contributions so far. Let me go also to here. Let me see. See, the Risen says there's an article of the creator Good Times put out defending the show. They said to watch the series before casting judgment. Apparently, it's offensive on purpose, not defending it, by the way. Yeah, there's certain people that are saying to that are defending it. My thing is it's one thing. Look, it's one thing for it to be a show where people just kind of misunderstand, and it's one thing for it to be written by people who just don't understand our community. From what I can see is that you have actors and possibly writers that do know the community, but it feels like they're writing it for almost a confirmation of what a lot of people who have white supremacist proclivities already think. But at the same time, it's like, do we need to write about what Black people, especially in a lot of our inner city neighborhoods and in neighborhoods like mine, go through? Yes. But you could do it in a more respectful way. And from what it looks like, it feels like it's kind of poking fun at us instead of showing what we're going through and us being better despite it, but at the same time showing that it still needs to change anyway. But I'm coming at it from somebody who does not have a Netflix account anymore and has seen just a preview. But from recounting other people who have seen it, it's not so good. So I don't know. When you have, sectors like Hollywood, they're not really going to do us justice for the most part. And if somebody does try to do us justice, that person typically gets blackballed. So yeah, but thank you very much for that. And yes, I think I read that article too. So I just haven't had time to go into it. Justin says, Solidarity Super Chat. Thank you so very much to Justin. Appreciate it very much as well. So, got to get going. So thank you so much to everybody for tuning in. I will be on my channel over the weekend. I will be getting into the conclusion of reading Laziness Does Not Exist by Dr. Devon Price. So I'll be reading the last piece of that book. So we're almost done. And then I will continue in the book, The Will to Change by Bell Hooks. I read this on my channel as well. And then on top of that, I will also continue in the reading of Water in the Spirit by Melodoma Patrice Some. We'll continue the reading of that as well. And then I will also be live on my channel next week with independent candidate Marcel Dixon on my channel on Tuesday next week. We'll be talking about reparations, running against Jim Clyburn, as well as all the shenanigans that's been going on within the Democratic Party and the Republican Party as of late, especially the passing of giving money to Ukraine and Israel, and then also the banning of TikTok. So we're going to be talking about that and a lot more next week on my channel. And then stay tuned. I won't be live on RBN this Sunday for the Jaybe show because I'm going to have a long night on Saturday. So I'm probably will be a little too exhausted to do anything on Tuesday early afternoon. I'm sorry, on Sunday early afternoon. So you guys will have to see me in the next week. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. Look, like I always say, water your plants, water yourselves, leave the world better than you found it. Smoke them if you got them, drink them if you got them. If you ain't got them, then watch something funny like the Boondocks. Don't watch the Good Times reboot. Watch the old Good Times instead. Or watch something that makes you laugh because joy is revolutionary. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Mwah, forehead kisses. Why? Because it's me. All right. Have a great one, guys. Good night.